What were some rules in the XFL that you liked that you would want the
So the
NFL to
first,
incorporate?
like the first thing is kickoffs. Their
Yeah,
kickoffs are just drastically better.
they're just better.
It's just way better. Uh, I can show. Should I show the video or should we just talk about it? Can just explain it with our mouths.
It's pretty easy.
Cool.
So the two teams line up. Is it 5 yards, 10 yards away from each
They
other?
are line up 5 yards away from each other at the returning team's 30 and 35.
Yeah. So there, and then the kicker kicks it off way back from like the 30,
Yeah.
30 like normal. So what that means is basically instead of like running all the way down the field and mashing into each other, they're just kind of already standing face to face around where the average kickoff runs to.
Right. And then the play starts when the returner catches the ball. So it's not
Yeah.
like the kicker kicks it and everyone charges. It's just like the returner catches. All right, now at play starts. And it's like, it's so much better from a health perspective, obviously. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we just eliminated the highest, like the reason that like 80% of concussions in the NFL exist.
Yeah.
Great. It's also more entertaining because almost every kick got returned.
Yeah. I was wondering about this the other day. What would happen if the kicker tried to kick the ball to some of the lined up guys who like weren't ready for it, so it like hits them and
Oh.
bounces off, and there's a fumble or something?
Oh, I don't know. That's
There's
interesting.
probably a rule about it or something. But I was surprised that the kickoffs were all so easy to recover because it's like, to me, if it starts when the person catches it, there's no difference between a high kick and a laser beam kick, right?
Right.
As long as you can get it that far.
Right.
So I would just like laser beam kick it every time in the hopes that it either like bounces and skips around and he has to like bend over to pick it up, or he like tries to catch it and fumbles it or something like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And it didn't last long enough for us to find out.
But like, yeah. But like, it was interesting because you could actually see the seam open up because the blockers are all right there and you're watching all of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, if there's a little seam and a guy can squirt out, get another 10 yards or whatever, you kind of see it happen. Whereas on kickoffs, it's sort of like the blocks come into the screen as the person runs through them because you can only look at part of the screen at a time. So it's like harder to follow the play
Right.
as it happens.
Right. Yeah. And there was like the first XFL kick return touchdown was like a very cool trick play where it was like
Yeah.
like here's the line of blockers, here's the returner. A blocker, instead of blocking, comes back behind the returner, receives a pitch from the returner here, and then goes past the blockers over here.
Hell
It
yeah,
was
dude.
very cool. And I was like, yeah, this is just like an obvious improvement the NFL should take, and I will be shocked if they take it into consideration any sooner than like 4 years from now. And it's like, had the XFL continued to exist, I bet it would have been 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, there would have been actual pressure for them to make this change because
Right.
we would have watched this better thing happen continuously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? What else did you like?
So there's a rule that makes sense to me that's like, it's a small one, but the like double pass where it's like, if you lateral the ball behind the line of scrimmage and the pass goes slightly forward,
It's still
you
a
can
forward
throw
pass.
the ball. You can throw the ball again.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, we've been talking about how we want the league to go to a two quarterback offense is the way of the future. And if you could have like a dump off pass to your second quarterback,
Yep.
like imagine this, okay? You've got a running back in there in protection, blocking, right?
Right.
The play's breaking down, the defense is collapsing on you. Dump pass to the running back, but suddenly he's got an arm. You just keep the play going, extend the play. He's scrambling around looking for receivers.
Yeah.
So you just bought yourself a whole second quarterback.
Lamar Jackson and Taysom Hill in the back, just able to toss it back and forth until a wide receiver gets open. Come on.
Yeah.
I want to watch
Yeah.
that all day.
Yeah, dude, it'd be great. That would be really fun. The rule itself is just like the seed, but a beautiful plant could grow from
Right.
such a seed.
Also, like, the rule itself illuminated that I didn't totally realize that was the case in the NFL. That if you threw it forward even behind the line of scrimmage, it was technically a forward pass. And, like,
Yeah, dude.
it couldn't still happen.
It's all about it's all about the parallel, perpendicular.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until I saw that play. Because I was like, what do you mean a double forward pass? At first I thought it meant, like, you could throw it 25 yards down the field, and then they could throw it another 25, and I was like, that's pretty tight, too. That's, like, that's
Honestly,
some rugby
that
shit, and I'm
should be a
into it.
rule.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I would be super into that.
Yeah, dude. It's like that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, why not? Just let's see what happens. Just revolutionize it, dude.
Yeah.
What's the worst that happens? We do a bad season with a cool rule, and then we're like, oh, never mind, let's go back to the old one, and then everyone
Right.
remembers this fun year.
Right.
Yeah, no problem.
But it's like the NFL will never take that risk, so we have to
Right,
have
right,
these
right.
other leagues doing so.
Yeah, honestly, it's like the NFL is the Democratic Party, and the XFL is the leftist wing within the party.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Both have been
And
quashed and eliminated in recent times,
Right.
and the originator is going to suffer because of it. Cool. So, let's see. Another rule in the XFL I thought was interesting was the extra points. I'm not sure. I never really saw it come into play. Like, XFL games on the whole did not seem to be close games, so I didn't see, and I didn't watch that many of them, but I didn't hear about any stories where it was like, the new rule led to this crazy thing happen,
Right.
you know?
So, like, real quick, for the listeners and viewers, so the way it worked is there's no kicking. You don't kick an extra point. You have 3 different choices. You can either go from 2 yards, you just do an offensive play from 2 yards, and if you successfully get it, that's worth 1 point. You do an offensive play from 5 yards, and that's worth 2 points. Or you do one from 10 yards, and that's worth 3 points. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting as well. I think that's one of the ones I'm like, we need a couple seasons of it in order for the kinks to get worked out. Because I think, like,
Right.
my initial thought is like, well, just from years of watching football, sometimes it's easier to score from 10 yards out than it is from 2 yards out. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
Yeah.
you have 10 extra yards that the defense has to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think some kinks probably would have needed to be worked out with it, but it's still, like, the kick of an extra point is, like, a boring version of this. Just, like, I like that the NFL moved kicks back. I think that is an improvement, but I don't think that it is a perfect solution, and I don't think their system was a perfect solution, but I think it was a step forward.
Yeah. It does seem like kicking an extra point is sort of just like a boring fill-in for a play that could be more exciting.
Right.
That, like, if teams had to just like go for 2 to get 1, it'd just be more interesting.
Absolutely.
You know, it'd be like, okay, what are they going to do here? Because you'd
Absolutely.
see teams kind of like bust out certain plays and stuff, and yeah. When I saw the XFL extra point rule, my immediate thought was, if I'm coach, I'm going for 2 from 5 yards out every single time.
How
It's
come?
like, just because, or unless the game score like indicates it. Like, if I score a touchdown to tie it, I'm gonna go for 1 to take the lead.
Right.
But like early first half, I'm gonna go for 2 every time, because it's like, it's not that much harder to get it in from 5 than from 2. So like, if you gave me, I bet I could get the 2-point conversion. I get 1 point from 2 yards.
Right.
Maybe like 2 out of every 3 times.
Right.
Right? So after 3 conversions, I would have 2 points, right? I would say I could get it from the 5-yard line at least 1 out of every 3 times. Maybe 2 out of every 3 times. Like, if I did it 3 times.
Right.
It's probably more like 4 or 5 out of 10, right?
Right.
So we're averaging like, yeah,
Yeah, do the
maybe
math,
like.
baby.
So I banked it. I set it to out of every 3, and then I'm realizing that's an inadequate number. So let's do out of 10.
Okay, so if you do
I
it 2 out of every 3 on 1, and in 10 you have like 6.66 points.
Yeah, but I think it's more like 6 out of 10.
Okay.
So let's say like 6 points off 10 conversions.
Okay.
Okay. From 5 yards out, I bet I could get 4 out of every 10, like
Yeah.
8 points per 10 conversions.
Right.
And then from
What about
10 yards,
what do you think?
I feel like probably like 2, right? You'd have
so
to
you
get
drop down to 6?
right. If you could get 3 out of every 10 from 10 yards out, that
Right.
would be really good. But it doesn't seem like you would get 3 out of every 10.
Right.
Or yeah.
I guess
At the very least, you're more likely to get like 5 out of every 10 from 5 than 3 out of every 10 from 10.
yeah. This is one of those things that like lately I've been thinking I should just start teaching myself more advanced math so I can start doing like personalized NFL sabermetrics, cuz something like this is like really interesting. Like how likely so like the best data points we probably have are how often do teams score a touchdown from 10 yards out versus how often do they score a touchdown from 5 yards out. Because like
also you also have to go on like either like 3rd and 10 or 4th and 10 because it's like
true. That's true.
because like if you have 1st and 10,
You're not going to
1st and goal from the 10-yard line, you're going to score that play less frequently than a 10-yard conversion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so you're probably going 4th and 10 even. Or like 3rd and 10 in dramatic losing situations where you really need that score. Yeah, I agree. I think just overall I agree. Like it would have been a much more interesting way for the game to evolve going forward, and it's a true loss that we are missing it.
It does feel funny that it makes like legitimately like a math probability problem like on the surface part of the coaching part of the game. Like it always is when you're like picking plays and stuff. You're like, okay, what are expected points here? But never in quite such a like puzzle way as this like 3-tiered extra point situation. You know, it's almost like, okay, if you kick it and answer the riddle, you get an extra bonus point for the kick. But if you get the riddle wrong, then you lose the bonus point.
It just, to me, it just is like it's as similar as we are like the like basketball math that has taken the NBA over lately. That math would start getting applied in an even more real way to football. Like people are like people are applying analytics to football, but like this is the most clear. How often does it succeed from, and how many points do you get per success? Let's just do the math real quick. Because, like, that 3-point math was there for 80 years, and just no one ever did the math. Or, like, people who did do the math weren't in decision-making positions.
Have you heard the story of the bad math that revolutionized British soccer?
No.
Okay, so this is really I don't remember when this guy did this math.
Okay.
But it was basically like one of the earliest attempts at analytics, right? So what he did was he watched a bunch of soccer games in England, and he found that most goals were scored after a sequence of like one or two passes.
Okay.
So it's like the team would get the ball, pass it once, twice, and score. And he saw that was way more common than like 5 passes to a goal or something.
Right.
So he was like, okay, well, what we need to do is we need to train our teams.
And this is a coach.
Yeah, or like a staff member or something.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if he was like the head coach or whatever, but he was an employee of a soccer team in England. He was like, hey, we got to start passing the ball all the way down the field. Like, if you get the ball, just hoof it down the field, and another guy will get it, and then he'll pass it and then score. Because most goals happen after 2 goals. If we do these, like, 4, 5, 6, 7 pass things, like, that's not how you score goals. You score goals after 2 passes. But the math that he did is he just failed to recognize that, like, two-pass combinations were just way more common in general. So it wasn't that, like, they were better at scoring goals after two passes. It's that, like, he wasn't noticing the rarity of, like, 6, 7, 8 pass sequences.
Incredible.
So it's like he basically just didn't weight the outcome to the frequency of the event happening.
Right. And he was just essentially being like, volumetrically, most of them happen this way. It's like, yeah, volumetrically, most things in soccer are two pass sequences.
It's sort of like something like saying, like, well, in the last 10 years, no 16-0 team has ever won the Super Bowl. So, like, you should probably finish the regular season with, like, a 13-3 record, because that's the most common
Super Bowl winning combination.
It's like, if you look at the number of 16-0 teams, they have all made the Super Bowl. So that actually is good. But it's like, you should count that as 100% of those teams making the Super Bowl, and not two such teams making the Super Bowl to be outnumbered by more 13-3 teams making the Super Bowl.
Incredible.
Yeah.
All right. So real quick, so a couple other things that I really liked about the XFL that I'm like bummed about being gone. I think you pointed this out to me, because I made a mistake. I did not watch the XFL while it existed, and I really regret that. That's like one of my biggest regrets of this last year. The sideline reporting is awesome. It was so dope, because it's just like brusque and honest, and people are like asking pretty rough questions while people are still emotionally going through the results of their actions. So like one of my favorites is, like, a kicker misses a kick. The reporter walks right over and goes, "How do you feel?" The guy's like, "Doesn't feel good, man. Does not feel good to have missed that kick. I'm not gonna lie. I don't feel great about it." And then it's like, "Yeah, that sucks, man. Well, I'll come talk to you later. Hopefully you'll have made a kick then." And the guy's like, "Yeah, man, I hope so." And then sure enough, she comes back later and she's like, it's just like fun. Like, not only is it funny and like interesting, but it's also like, it's genuinely just fun. Like, they had a more fun rapport, because she came back over and she was like, "You made that kick, what'd I tell you?" And he was like, "Yeah, I did." Like, it's just like a fun, silly, like festive atmosphere that the NFL is like, just refuses to take into the model.
So first, I just want to say that we are the same person, because our lists for things we liked about the XFL have been exactly the same so far. Yeah. And my favorite interview that I've seen, I haven't seen that many of them, but do you see Matt McGloin at halftime?
Which one is that?
He's the quarterback for it might be the DC Defenders, or it might be the New York one.
Is he the one who just starts swearing?
He goes, she's like, they're down like 12-0.
Yeah.
And the sideline reporter goes, "Tough first half for your offense. What do you need to do better out there in the second half?" And he just goes, "We need to change the whole goddamn game plan."
Hell yeah. Does he have long hair?
No.
Okay.
But he had like short blonde hair. But he was like fighting with his coaching staff, being like, "This is dumb. This is terrible. Like, we just need to do something completely different."
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
There is one that I don't think it was that, because I think it was a defensive lineman that I saw. And the defensive lineman gets asked something like, "So what's working out there? What's not working?" And he says something along the lines of like, "They keep fucking up our shit. I'm so tired of it." And it's just like he gets bleeped. Those lines don't make it through, but you know what he said, and like the emotion is real, and it's incredible. Because it's like, you and I always talk about how
I like the idea of a player knowing that his curse words are going to get bleeped, so like rearranging them so that they don't really make sense. Like, did he just say that they're gonna that they've been shitting up our fucks? It would make more sense if it was fucking up our shit, but they were both bleeped, so I couldn't tell. But based on the word, it looked like he was
I saw his mouth move.
Fucks, but that doesn't make sense.
You and I always talk about how like Frank Clark after the Super Bowl, or like Richard Sherman after that NFC Championship game, or whatever game it is, where he goes like, "Put a sorry ass receiver like Crabtree on me."
Yeah, NFC Championship game 2013 or whatever.
It rules, man. Like, that's That's what we want. I want
Yeah,
players to be emotional. Like, I want that. That's what people want. And it is infuriating that the NFL is like this stodgy ass league that's refusing to let this seep in. And the XFL would have pushed it. They would have pushed it so
dude.
hard.
Yeah,
Because
dude.
it's like, especially as it existed for like 5 to 10 years, because it's like, let's say, like PJ Walker, for instance, that QB who is like the immediate sensation out of the XFL. Let's say PJ Walker is out there just like lighting it up week after week, and eventually he has to be given a shot in the NFL. But he spent the first 3 years of his like professional career being able to say whatever the fuck he wanted. And then he gets brought into the NFL and is good, so like the team isn't going to get rid of him. And he spent 3 years in the XFL being able to come to the sideline and being like, yeah, man, I don't like such and such. That guy's a fucking asshole. It sucks. He's not going to come into the NFL and be able to bring that same energy, but he is going to come into the NFL and have an expectation of what is allowed of him that is like different enough that he will like broaden what the NFL will allow, and like that would just keep happening until the NFL is closer to the XFL.
That is a legitimately good and interesting take. I really like it. Just that, like, yeah. And then maybe the NFL has to start a sub-minor league with nicer people who are nicer to the media called, like, Miss Higginbotham's Finishing League for talented young boys or whatever. and that just to balance it out.
Yeah.
Or, okay, in order to... So, the XFL is out, right? How can we incorporate more honesty in press conferences out of our athletes, right? Okay.
Right.
Taking a page out of the improv playbook.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
It's a very small playbook. They don't write stuff down in improv.
Yeah, you're right. It's... You ever played the game? There's a game called New Choice, where basically you just do a scene, but at any given moment, someone, like the director or moderator or someone, can, like, say new choice, or if you have a piano, you can do like a note on the piano, like a bump, and the person has to like change the line they just said.
Okay.
And then eventually the person's like, great, or does like a happy noise on the keyboard, like a ba ba ba, and then that's like none of the repeated lines count. That's the line that you said moving forward.
Okay.
So it's like you could be like, hey, I want to buy a puppy. It's like, bump. It's like, I want to buy a kitty. Bump. It's like, I want to buy a python. It's like, bum, bum, bum. Okay, it's like, now we're in a scene about buying.
Oh, okay.
Like, so, press conference, Russell Wilson's out there going, you know, I mean, big game, got to play 4 quarters. At the end of the day, it wasn't good for us. Bump. You know, we really came out there amped today, but you got to hand it to the LA Rams. You know, they executed when it mattered most. So, it's like, okay, I mean, did you see the refs out there? I mean, they were holding all day. Like, bum, bum, bum.
And another thing. Why can't I throw the ball? Why do we have to run the ball so much? I'm so good. I would love... Russell Wilson is my goal for who I want to crack because of these rules seeping into the NFL. I want Russell Wilson to be like, and another thing. It's bollocks that I'm out there. And he says bollocks. That's a fun fact that we find out about Russell Wilson, is when he's actually angry, he swears like a British person. He goes, it's bollocks that I'm out here with a patchwork O-line every year, and I'm not even allowed to whip the ball around to help our team win.
I would like to... Here's how I feel like I could get Russell Wilson into his most perturbed state.
All right, hit me with it.
Okay? I challenge him to a game of skee ball. Okay? He's probably really good at skee ball.
Absolutely. He's a professional athlete. He's automatically good.
Right. I slide a $5 bill to the arcade attendant to make it so that his machine does not register his good ball rolls. Right? And so he'll like be
it only registers
the
5,000s
and the 10,000. Yeah, it'll do like 1,000 or 2,000.
Yeah.
So that when I get 1,000 or 2,000 each time off my own natural merits, we're neck and neck. You know?
Yeah.
But he'll be rolling 5,000s and 10,000s, and I'll just make sure that I don't really look. And he'll be like, "Oh, I just got 10,000." I was like, "Really, Russell? Because your score is 3,000, so I think you're cheating." And it's just over and over and over again, right? But I need to make sure that the arcade attendant is back there because Russell's going to be like, let's trade machines. Okay,
Right.
so it's got to be like an active swap of the motherboards or whatever,
Right.
you know. And I feel like after 3 or 4 games of beating Russell Wilson on the scoreboard, but not in reality, he'd work up quite a temper.
Oh, he would lose it. Yeah, I think that's a solid strategy. I think it'll really pay off for you. I also like that this arcade attendant that you have, you have him swapping motherboards. Like, this is a very technically savvy arcade attendant.
I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't know how a skee ball works. I'm not going to sit here and get in the mind of a skee ball technician, okay? But it seems to me pretty reasonable that somewhere in that machine there's a motherboard.
Yeah.
And you could replace it with a motherboard that refuses to count Russell Wilson's 5,000 and 10,000 skee ball rolls.
I think you're correct. I just think that part of your scheme requires hiring someone who has a pretty high-tech understanding of the machine. Whereas I thought you just sort of meant, like, maybe they'd shove their fist up the 2,000 or whatever, so it just sort of, like, bounces and rolls off repeatedly.
Ooh, that's a good way to do it. Or, like, Russell Wilson rolls the ball, and then as it's jumping in, he just, like, taps the 2,000 activator so that it's like, it registers the ball going through the 2,001 instead of the 10,000.
Right. That's smart, too. That's smart. I like that.
Because we used to do that when I was a kid, and we play the shooty basketball game at the swim club, like, where I went swimming and stuff. Every now and then we do a round where we're like, let's just cheat. And we'd, like, walk behind it and just, like, hit the little score counter thing with our fingers and see how many points we could get. That was fun.
Hot Chocolate Baptism asks if he swears with a British accent or just uses their curses. In my head, he just uses their curses. Like, he grew up in a house that watches, like, a lot of, Fry and Laurie and a lot of just, like, mediocre British sketch shows. And so, like, he doesn't flip people off. He does that whole thing. There's a lot of that. But his American accent through and through.
I would see him saying fiddlesticks a lot. I don't know if that's a British thing, but
it definitely feels like it could be British. Oh,
yeah.
Fiddlesticks, yeah. Yeah, fiddlesticks, yeah.
Fiddlesticks.
Yeah, fiddlesticks.
Fiddlesticks.
Yeah. It's British for sure. We got to the bottom of that one quick.
It's weird to me that, like, that neither the T's nor the R is actually, like,
Butter.
a real letter.
Yeah, butter.
Like, they don't say it, right?
Butter.
It's like, the T's are and the R is a So
yeah,
I don't know. How do you know?
A glottal, whatever it's called.
A
glottal stop.
Glottal
Glottal stop.
It's just interesting that so many letters have so few sounds. And I say this as a Frenchman.
Yeah.
Whose whole language is lots of letters and not.
Oh my god, it's nonsense. I watched a French or Harry Potter with French subtitles on. It was a French Harry Potter with French subtitles because I was like, I know what they're saying for the most part, and I want to see it. The number of times that the letters R and E at the end of a word don't do anything drove me crazy. I was like, this is infuriating.
There's a really funny home movies episode about that where they cat sit this really rich family's cat, and the cat is named Alexandre, like the French name for Alexander, but it's Alexandre.
Alexandre.
So they, like, say it back and forth a few times because Brendan's mom's like, Alexandra, and they're like, Alexandre, and she's like, so you just stop there, huh? It's not like Alexandra, it's just like Alexandre. Where's the rest of the name of the cat? So it's like, it's a great episode.
It's like you make the shape of an R with your mouth, but you refuse to breathe out at that point.
Yeah. Alexandre. Because it's a non-voiced release of air, is what the R sound is. Like, at the end. Like, it's Alexandre.
Alexandre.
I
can't get it. I tried.
It's tough. But yeah.
In when I was in France, I kept thinking that I was making progress, and I could tell from the scowls on people's faces that I was not making progress.
Well, you could be making progress, but that progress
Not
is
to us.
below the scowl line.
Right.
It's-
You know what? I say that's unfair. Honestly, everyone in France was very sweet to me. I had one rude interaction the whole time, and that doesn't feel like a French thing. That just feels like that's how, like, if you interact with 2 weeks worth of people, one person will be rude to you no matter where you are.
Also, like, having 2 weeks worth of interactions and focusing on the one that was uncomfortable and rude seems like a Daniel O'Connell thing.
What are you talking about? I don't understand.
I think, French. Well, the thing about the French R is if you try to make it sound like an American R in any way, shape, or form,
You're
are
wrong.
doing it wrong. It's a different sound.
Right.
It's like it's more like an Arabic like huh than like an American ruh.
Okay. That's actually really helpful. That's very helpful to hear.
Yeah. And then it becomes easier to make the real sound because you're not making the wrong shape.
Is
with
that
your lips.
everywhere? So like in a croissant, is it qua?
Croissant, yeah.
So
croissant.
it's not
It's
an
more
R
like
at
a
all.
W, but yeah.
Croissant, but that's still helpful because Alexandre,
Le roi.
Alexandre.
And it also, I mean, I guess it's like, it depends how it interfaces with different vowels, right? Because like croissant or roi have like a different, it's like a whole versus like Alexandre, which is like right? So it's like,
But it's all just like
it's all here, but it could, depending on the vowels that it's next to,
right.
be different here.
Right, that makes sense. All right, real quick, let's get back into the XFL.
I don't know, Dan. Our numbers have gone up since we started discussing French phonetics.
I know,
Maybe
and
we should be a French phonetics stream.
And I'm worried about losing them, baby.
Les amis.
Anyone who's out there, welcome. Hop in the chat. Tell us what French words you can't pronounce. Andre will pronounce them for you. Les ans produits infallible. Infallible.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So should we move on to
a couple more. Just a quick last couple hits on the XFL.
Cool.
So all right. So I think the other the big thing from the XFL that I want more of, that we hit on earlier with the sideline interviews, football and life. It's not just a football podcast. It's not just a life podcast. It's a French pronunciation podcast. Is I like and care about the XFL's potential to have pushed the NFL in a direction in which NFL players became more valuable as individuals. Like, so my example is like the sideline report where someone is emotional and like is like amped up after a play. They are going to become a sensation out of that. You know, like they're going to become more widely known as a public figure because of those interactions. And then like another thing the XFL did that the NFL will not do unless pushed to do is like you're able to take off your helmet in the end zone. And so like you take off your helmet when you're celebrating,
I did not know that.
and it's
That's
super
great.
tight. And so it leans into like the thing that the NBA does much better than the NFL is that the players are the product. And so like I don't know if that's a thing the NBA does better. I think the NFL would argue that's a thing the NBA does worse, because it means that the players have power, not the league. But that's why the NFL won't let it happen, is because it is like a player empowerment thing. Like they become a brand. Whereas like right now, with the exception of like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, like a couple of these players, the brands are all the team. And so like I think like there's something interesting about like being able to take off your helmet in the end zone is literally like taking off another brand to make your own brand. And like the NFL will not embrace that until they are forced to do so. And it is a true loss to me that the XFL is gone for that reason.
As the internet's premier celebration consultants and celebration think tank, I can honestly say that this might be the most sobering loss of all, is the loss of a future with better celebrations.
Absolutely.
That would let those players shine.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it always is good to take like a player positive approach to things,
I'm just like, I'm not here to root for billionaires, all right? That's not why I'm watching this sport, is to root for the guy who owns the franchise. I'm rooting for the people on the come up, which are the players.
If Jeff Bezos bought the Detroit Lions, I think I would stop rooting for them.
That's fair.
I'm not sure.
But
I think I would.
I'm not super far from embracing an entirely player-first rooting system to begin with. Like, I think once Von Miller is gone, I think I will have a lot less tying me to the Broncos. Like, John Elway doesn't necessarily seem like the best guy. The Broncos sort of have a history of domestic abusers being fine on their team. I'm already not far from being like, screw it. I'm just picking players who I like and rooting for them each year.
Yeah. We should, I mean, I feel like I need to, like, instead of putting all my chips in the Lions basket, like, still care about them as much as possible. Just give myself more opportunities
Diversify.
to feel good as a fan. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's different from being like, oh, fair weather fan, turn your back on your team. It's like, no, there's been so much misery. I just need something else to make me feel okay.
Right.
And, like, sprinkle some side money on, other teams that I think might be good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think one last, like, to put a button in it, I think the XFL proved that another league can exist.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just support whoever is on offense. I kind of like that, except that I find that I really like rooting for specific styles of defense. Like, I think one of the most fun seasons I've had to, like, watching in a while was the Broncos Super Bowl season before the Super Bowl, and our offense was god-awful that year. But our defense was, like, a 3-and-out almost every drive, and it was super tight. It was, like, so fun to be like, all right, I get to root for and receive, like, I get to root for and be right about the fact that I'm about to receive a sack on third down or a pick six, like, 6 times a game. It was amazing. It was so fun. But I do like that as a method. That's a good method, Hot Chocolate.
Yeah. It was the same for me with, like, the Sue and Fairley era Lions, where it was like, try to run on us. You're going to get maximum 2 yards.
Uh-huh.
So just, like, watching them, like, just
time after time
incomplete, we get the ball back is really fun.
Yeah.
But I won't go as far as to say that, like, I prefer defense to offense.
No,
but, like,
no,
there
no.
are some defenses that are worth watching. I agree with this. Sometimes I just support whoever is on offense with a caveat. I would say a lot of the time, if I'm watching a neutral game, I will root for whoever is on. I will root for the team that's behind to score. So when they are on offense, let's score. Just to make a more interesting game out of it.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Especially if it's like they're down 10 and they're driving. It's like, let's make this a one-possession game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, sorry, real quick. I was just going to say that, like, it bums me out because I think this was maybe the best shot we had at getting a league to stick for a little while. Like, there was a lot of legitimizing factors to it. So it was like, there were, like, names we all knew, right? Like, Bob Stoops was a coach. Like, there was, like, Cardale Jones, Landry Jones. Like, these people who aren't, like, they weren't, like, successful NFL people, but, like, those are both, like, former first or like people who had first round buzz at least at some point,
Right.
And then, like, Dean Blandino was the chief of officiating. Like, there's all these names we knew, and, like, people were going to games, people were watching, and it's like that happened to some degree with the AAF, but, like, the XFL really, I think, could have stuck around this time. And it just bums me out, man. I think we might be, like, another 15 years from a league coming around that will stick now. Because, like, I mean, not to get too dour, but, like, I sort of expect that this is going to be, like, a multi-year depression, probably.
Yeah.
And it's like, no one's going to create a new minor football league in, like, a full-on economic depression.
It feels like it really used a lot of the gas in the tank as far as the, like, activation energy for these leagues.
Yep. And yeah, it's a bummer, but I think it's like, all right, cool. Assuming that the world doesn't come to an end in the next 15 years of our life, we will probably have a new football league birthed, and that's pretty tight.